Hey guys, hope you're doing well today. You know, as a youth pastor, I get asked all the time, what are my favorite books? And it's really hard to pick a favorite book, but I can very clearly tell you what the most impactful books in my life have been. So I figured I'd make a quick video and tell you the 5 most impactful books in my life in the order they impacted me. If you enjoy this, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button for me. Feel free to check out the links in the description. That being said, hope you enjoy. Alright, time out. Before I get into the 5 most impactful books in my life, let's go ahead and do the obvious one. The most impactful book in my life, bar none, the Bible. In fact, this Bible right here is the ESV Study Bible, my highest recommendation. If you are serious about your time in the Word of God, you want to go deeper, you want to study, you want a great gift for someone, this is my favorite version. This is the one I study from personally. Also highly recommend the NASB, New American Standard Version, New American Standard Bible. Obviously, the message that brought me from death to life and told me the redemptive story of Christ is my number 1 most impactful book. Not counting that in the list, I think it's pretty obvious. Book number 1. Shortly after I got serious about my relationship with the Lord when I was a junior in high school, someone recommended a book to me that really did change my life. It got me serious, it got me excited, it got me passionate, it got me to recognize that the call of discipleship, the call of following Jesus was so much more than I ever really imagined. It wasn't about sitting in a service, it wasn't about showing up at church, it was literally a call to lose your life. So the first really impactful book in my life, Radical by David Platt. If you were at the baccalaureate service this past year, you know I gave one of these out to every graduating student. It is such a high recommendation for me. When someone gets serious about the Lord, it's one of the first books I point them to. The very first chapter is called Someone Worth Losing Everything For. And as a believer, you are literally losing everything to follow Jesus. And so often we neglect one of the most important parts of the gospel is the cost of giving your life up for Christ. What that is actually going to look like and what the reward of it is. Highly recommend Radical, and it was the first most impactful book in my life. Book number 2. Shortly after reading Radical, I actually believed that books could be impactful. Go figure. And the next book I came in contact with was Knowledge of the Holy. Make sure you can see that. Knowledge of the Holy by A.W. Tozer. Let me read just one excerpt from it, page 3, right here in the beginning. It says, "The idolatrous heart assumes that God is other than he is, in itself a monstrous sin, and substitutes for the true God one made in its own likeness." This book is all about the nature of who God is. It's all about understanding that the God of the Bible is who he says he is, and I don't get to pick and choose which parts I like and which parts I don't like. I don't get to create in my image some version of God that's going to be beneficial for me. God is who he is, and this book really helped me understand the attributes of God in a simple way. Every chapter was like 3 to 4 pages. It was deep, but I could almost read it like a devotional. Senior year of high school, I tore through this book, loved every bit of it, highly recommend it to you, and it is the second really impactful book in my life. And that brings us to book number 3. Now I might get some slack talking about this one because this book is actually on a topic that we don't like to talk about a lot in church. My friend actually gave me this book my freshman year of college. The book is called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, About Money. Yeah, I know. But that being said, this book absolutely transformed the way I viewed money, the way I viewed financial freedom, which is really what it's about. It's not about getting rich. It's not about being greedy. It's not about building success. It's about financial freedom. It's a topic I'm very passionate about, and I'll talk about it in future videos. But a few things from the book. It's actually, the premise of it is Robert, the author, had 2 fathers. He had one who was his biological father, and a separate who was his friend's father, who was like a mentor to him in his life. He talked about how his biological father would use the phrase, "I can't afford this," all the time, and yet his rich father would say, "How can I afford this?" He talked about the fact that the poor typically stay poor, the middle class typically stay the middle class, and the rich typically stay rich because they view money differently. I highly recommend this book. It's been transformative in my life and changed the way I view money. And hopefully, if you get it, if you read it, I think it'll have a heavy impact in your life and help you achieve financial freedom. And I guarantee I'll be talking about that in the future. And that brings us to book number 4. I actually still identify this as my favorite book. Probably not the best written of all time, probably not the deepest of all time, but this was quite possibly the most impactful book in my life, apart from the Bible. I remember I was a freshman in college. It was near the end of my freshman year. This book was given to me by my father. The first half of the book I thought was really decent. It was kind of just giving the background story on this man by the name of Nick Ripken, actually a pseudonym. But the second half of the book transformed the way I view the persecuted church. In fact, I remember there was a moment I was on my bed reading. I broke into tears. I've never done that before reading. That's not normal for me. Broke into tears, hit my knees, and started praying. The name of the book is The Insanity of God. Nick Ripken literally goes from country to country, interviewing believers and talking about with them all that they have gone through in persecution for the sake of the gospel. I can't recommend this book highly enough. Absolutely incredible work. If you don't know much about the persecuted church, read this. You will fall in love. You won't stop praying for them as our brothers and sisters all around the world are being persecuted for the sake of the gospel. I highly recommend you checking this out, and it was the fourth most impactful book in my life. Fifth, and finally, The Power of Habit. Now, obviously, this is the book I've read most recently since it's number 5, but like every other book I've mentioned, this one has absolutely transformed my life. It helped me identify bad habits in my life and taught me how I could break them. It helped me change other habits and helped me establish new, healthy habits in my life. We just don't think about how many things we do out of habit. We don't think about brushing our teeth. We don't think about backing out of our driveway in the morning or driving to work when our mind literally goes dead because it's become a habit in our lives. What if you could develop successful disciplines in your life that functioned in that way, that you didn't have to think about, you just did because the habit has been established? This book had a massive impact in my life. I think it could in yours too. Just like all these books, I highly recommend it because of the impact it's had in my life. Hope you'll check it out. If you do, let me know what you think. And that concludes the 5 most impactful books of my life. That is Radical, Knowledge of the Holy, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Insanity of God, and last but certainly not least, The Power of Habit. If you guys like this video, I hope you hit the like button, you'll hit the subscribe button. If you've read any of these, drop down in the comments to let me know what you think. If you do read any of these, after you read them, drop down in the comments to let me know what you think. As always, links will be in the bios. I appreciate your time. Thank you for checking out this channel, and I'll catch you later.